This is Love Notes, daily devotions from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. Grace and peace to you. Our text today is Luke, the 23rd chapter, verses 1 through 12. The passion, the crucifixion, and the death of Jesus begin in earnest in what follows. Luke tells us that the assembly rose as a body and brought Jesus before Pilate. Who's the assembly? And they rise as a body, as one people. Luke, as he so often does, is making more of a theological point than a news report. This is not the Romans, it's not the Jews, it's the assembly of people who've gathered to accuse Jesus. And they all rise up as one body. So it's really hard here, and Luke is intentional about this, to separate the black hats from the white hats, if you will. You can't simply say those are the good guys and those are the bad guys. They are in it together. They represent the people who are in power, the people who make things run every day. They are not those who have been following Jesus and listening to his word. They're not the people who have eagerly awaited the Messiah. They are the people who want to keep their power and to make sure that everything stays the same. We should remember Mary's song at the beginning of Luke's gospel, which told us that the powerful would be taken from their thrones and the lowly would be lifted up. And we should keep that in the back of our minds as this unfolds before us. It is precisely those who Mary predicted would be taken down from their thrones who are this assembly. So they gather together and they begin to accuse him, saying, "We found this man perverting our nation." This is the charges they're bringing to Pilate, the governor. Perverting our nation. It's kind of vague, and yet it's intentional. Perverting our nation is a kind of code way of saying, even to this day, that this guy doesn't go along with the status quo. This guy is a threat to the order of the empire. Their second charge is that he has forbidden them to pay taxes to the emperor. Well, that's also a contrived and calculated accusation to get Pilate's interest. They're building a case so that they can prod Pilate into doing what they want him to do. Jesus, of course, has done neither of these things. He has not perverted the nation. He has, in fact, been found to be quite a faithful Jewish person. When asked if he should pay taxes, Jesus said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's and God what is God's." Now, granted, that's got some interpretive room in it for us to say, well, if everything belongs to God, then we should give nothing to Caesar. But Jesus didn't interpret it that way, though he may have meant it. And then finally, he's saying that he himself is the Messiah. Now, Pilate wouldn't know much about the Messiah, and so they add on a king, that he is the Messiah, a king. They've taken all of the meaning of Messiah as an heir to David's throne and kind of loaded it up with that image. So Pilate, hearing the charges, asks him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus' answer is not very satisfactory, I'm sure. He says, "You say so," or "It has been said of me," or "That's what folks are saying." But he doesn't say, "Yes, I am the king of the Jews." He leaves that for Pilate to figure out. Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, "I find no basis for an accusation against this man." Standing before him is a Galilean peasant who stumbled into Jerusalem and ticked off the wrong people. That's what Pilate sees. Pilate sees this Galilean peasant standing in front of him who is no threat to Rome. Even if he said don't pay taxes, How's he going to get that done? So Pilate finds no basis for the accusation. But they were insistent. They're not going to take no for an answer. So they upped the game just a little bit. They said he stirs up the people by teaching throughout all Judea, from Galilee, where he began, even to this place. He stirs up the people. Well, the last thing a good governor wants is a riot on his hands, and so maybe that pushes him a bit further. Pilate tells the truth about Jesus. There's no basis for these charges. But then again, in situations like this, the truth doesn't really matter much, does it? And that hasn't changed in 2,000 years or longer. It then says, when Pilate heard this, that he was stirring the people up, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. They had brought Galilee up in their accusation, and when he learned that he was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him off to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at the time. So here's the situation. Jesus is a Galilean, so he's a subject of Herod, not really of Pilate's. Everybody's come to Jerusalem for the festival. The Passover is approaching. Herod's done that too, not because he's necessarily a faithful Jew, but because it's good press. He wants to be there for the festivities so that all of the Galileans who've come also can see him as a faithful king, which he isn't. I assume it's for appearance sake that he is in Jerusalem, but Pilate sees an opportunity. Maybe I can pawn this guy off on Herod. So he sends him across town to wherever Herod is staying. And when Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he'd been wanting to see him for a long time. Now remember, Herod is the guy that kills John the Baptist. Herod was perplexed by John, and he'd heard about all these signs and wonders that Jesus was doing, and he'd wanted to see him. Not wanting to see him for enlightenment, for faith, for any kind of salvation, but because he was a spectacle and he was attracting crowds. It was a show. Herod represents exactly what Jesus had condemned earlier in this gospel when he said, "This evil generation demands a sign." That's all Herod wanted. A magic trick. Somebody healed, a dead person raised, a demon cast out. It says that Herod questioned him at some length, but Jesus gave him no answer. Jesus will not give him the satisfaction of helping him make a decision or not. Jesus is undertaking things. Now, we might say, well, why didn't Jesus speak up? This is a question of who's in charge here. Pilate and Herod think they are. But as the faithful reader, Theophilus, named in the first verse of the book, we know that Jesus is the one in control, and so he's not going to play their games. The chief priests, it says, and the scribes stood by vehemently accusing him. Even Herod, with his soldiers, treated him with contempt and mocked him. So they didn't have any intention in taking him seriously. Then Herod put an elegant robe on him, not really to honor him, but to mock him some more, and send him back to Pilate. Herod says, I don't have anything to do with this guy. That same day, Herod and Pilate became friends with each other. Before this, they'd been enemies. I'm not sure exactly why Luke makes this point, other than they become now partners in the evil of this world, the darkness that is befalling it. They collude together, and I guess evil folks like to stick together. It may be, in fact, a reflection of Psalm 2. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and his anointed, is what that psalm says. It's a fulfillment of prophecy. Rulers usually don't like each other because they get in each other's way, but when they have a common enemy, well, that's different. Jesus has been brought before the officials who could declare him innocent. They found him innocent, and yet nothing changes. It's revealed to us in this text that the innocent in this world really aren't judged with justice very often, are they? More often it's a mockery. The course is set before they ever stand before the judge, just as it was for Jesus. And so Jesus begins his trial, an innocent man being pushed toward death. Amen.